Today, we're diving into a story that sits right at this really tough intersection of family tragedy and the cold, hard letter of the law. It's a story about loss, about loyalty, and a fight for a future that all comes down to the definition of a single word. So here's the question at the heart of it all. On the surface, it seems pretty straightforward, right? But the answer is tangled up in a whole set of rules that were actually designed to help families in their worst moments. The problem is, what happens when the very definition of family is what's standing in your way? Okay, let's get specific. Here are the facts. We're talking about a police employee in Uttar Pradesh who tragically died while on the job. He left behind a wife, and this is a key detail, she also has a government job, and he left behind an unmarried elder brother who's 28. This brother steps up and says, I should be able to get a government job to support the family. But can he? To answer that, we first have to understand why this kind of law even exists. This isn't your normal hiring process. This is meant to be an emergency lifeline. The official term is compassionate appointment. And really, you should think of it as a massive exception to all the usual rules of getting a job. Its whole purpose is to be a kind of financial first responder for a family that's just been hit by an unthinkable tragedy. So the whole point, the main goal, is super simple. It's to stop a family from suddenly falling into complete financial ruin. It's a safety net, pure and simple, designed to catch them before they hit rock bottom.
And this brings us right to the core of it. The entire case, this brother's entire future, it all hangs on how the law decides to define one single word.
So in Uttar Pradesh, there's an official rulebook for this stuff called the Dying in Harness Rules, 1974. And tucked away inside this document is the single most important detail for our case, the legal definition of family. And boom, here it is. This is the detail that changes absolutely everything. The law has two completely different definitions of family, and it all depends on whether the person who passed away was married or not. If they were married, family means the wife or husband, the kids, and widowed mother. But look what happens if the employee was unmarried. Suddenly, the definition includes unmarried brothers and sisters. That one little distinction, that's the whole ballgame right there. So you can see the process is actually incredibly rigid. It's like a flow chart. Step 1, was the person married? Yes or no? That answer tells you which list of family members to even look at. Then, you just check, is the person making the claim on that specific list? And from there, it's a simple grant or deny.
Of course, a rule is just words on paper until it gets tested in court. So how have judges actually applied this law in the real world?
Well, the courts have been incredibly consistent on this. The Allahabad High Court has ruled time and time again that if a government employee dies and leaves a widow, she is considered the one and only eligible dependent, period. The line of eligibility just stops right there with her.
And if you need any more proof of how strictly this is viewed, India's Supreme Court puts it even more bluntly. They've said, compassionate appointment is a concession, not a right. What that means is, it's like a conditional gift from the government, not something that anyone is automatically entitled to.
And the implication of that is pretty stark. It means there's just no room for bending the rules. A judge might feel a lot of sympathy for a family, but their hands are tied. The decision has to be based on the black and white text of the law, not on emotion.
Okay, so now we have all the pieces of the puzzle, right? We have the case itself, we have the specific law, and we have the court's interpretation. It's time to put them all together and get our answer. So let's go back to our 28-year-old brother. Because his deceased brother was married, he simply does not appear on the legal list of eligible family members. Under the rules as they are written today, his claim cannot succeed. It's a clear and simple no. Now, I know what you're probably wondering, but wait. What about the fact that his sister-in-law, the widow, already has a job? Doesn't that matter? And according to the law, the answer is no. Her being employed doesn't create some kind of opening that her brother-in-law can then fill. Her eligibility as the sole dependent can't be transferred to anyone else.
But you know, a clear legal answer doesn't always feel like a complete one. This case really forces us to ask some much bigger and honestly tougher questions. If the whole point of the law is to prevent financial ruin, shouldn't the widow's financial status matter? If the person first in line is already financially secure, shouldn't the safety net then extend to someone else in the family who isn't? And maybe the biggest question of all, does this law, written back in 1974, still reflect how modern families actually work and support each other?
And that is really the question we're left with, isn't it? The law gives a very decisive answer for this brother's case, right here, right now. But it also shines a bright light on this tension between applying a rule strictly and achieving what that rule was originally meant to do. It just makes you wonder if the law in its effort to be so clear, is also being completely fair.